Inspired by yet another comment, shout out to Casey, who appears to be a very competitive gamer. Based on being competitive, is a bit frustrated as of late of being stuck on ladder, as we all have definitely felt that frustration. But what's important here is the perspective that Casey has. He is not blaming Dex. He is putting it on himself, knowing he is the one that needs to improve. We're not going to try to speed run through this. If you want to get better and if you need these fundamental tips, watch till the end. Let's get after it. Now, I know what you're thinking, a lot of reading, no fancy edits here. I don't care about retention. If you want to get better at this game, you will watch the entire video. A lot of passion and a lot of time went into this. I want to truly help you guys get better. Let's go ahead and get started with, before we get started, you got to understand this. Each battle is different. These fundamentals are meant to be learned and applied to each battle with the understanding that you as the player must adapt and adjust during each battle. There is no silver bullet. These fundamentals are building blocks. You as the player must put in the time, focus up, practice, and grow to be competitive. To give yourself the best chance to win, you need to dedicate yourself to 3 key areas of focus: a solid fundamental understanding of Clash Royale, watch and learn from other players, and dedicate time to practice. Now on to the first tip in no particular order: patience. Play patient. There's a lot of time in battle. Don't feel you have to take a tower in the first 10 seconds. Sometimes not making a play is the best play. If you're down on elixir, relax and build it back up. Sometimes slowly chipping and or spell chipping over time is the key to victory. Find different ways to win, especially if you can't break through. Learn your opponent's deck, their win conditions, and counters. The first 1 to 30 seconds should be exactly that, you learning your opponent. On to tip number 2, overcommitting. If you find yourself not able to defend pushes after you've offensively pushed, or defended and then counter pushed, you likely overcommitted at some point, hence why you don't have the elixir to defend your opponent's pushes. Unnecessarily dropping troops in elixir that end up void or have little damage and not able to defend are consequences to overcommitting. Tip number 3, over defending. Know when to take damage at the expense of building your elixir and win condition push. I see players often drop a troop to save like 10 HP on a tower, and then can't support the troop, which just proceeds to its death and likely messes up their cycle. Allowing a little bit of damage, which can turn into a large offensive push, is likely more beneficial, unless of course your tower is super low. Just use proper judgment. Tip number 4, counter pushing. Defending on your side of the arena and then counter pushing offensively. Example of this would be you defend with the Valk and then run Hog Rider behind her on a counter push. Tip number 5, don't support a dead push. If you defend successfully but your defending troop is low on health, in most cases don't support it. You'll be depleting your elixir while your opponent is building elixir. Since they made the first move offensively, they will defend your push, and you will unlikely be able to defend their counter push. This is also another example of overcommitting. Tip number 6, be mindful of your cycle and your opponent's cycle. Keep your cycle in order. If it gets messed up, get it back in sync. Always focus on your win condition push. Learn your opponent's counters and their win conditions and try to outcycle them. Consider not making a play if you know your opponent's counter is in hand. Tip number 7, elixir management. Probably one of the most important fundamentals to learn. All of the above tips contribute to proper elixir management. You must learn this if you want to be successful and competitive. Positive elixir trades are super beneficial in battle. Tip number 8, build the right deck. A proper deck template. 1 splash unit, 1 building, a viable win condition. No Mega Knight is not a viable win condition. Hoping he gets to the tower is not a consistent way to get damage or win. 2 spells, preferably a small and a medium. A range unit like Musketeer. A tank destroyer like Mini P.E.K.K.A. And lastly, a wild card spot, a secondary win condition like Magic Archer, some bait cards, or a ground splash like Mega Knight, Dark Prince, Ghost, or Valk, which can provide an added defense as well. There is no magical perfect deck, and decks don't play for you. Learn the fundamentals. Find synergy. Decks must have synergy. Example, having Mega Knight and Valk in the same deck doesn't make a lot of sense because in many ways they are the same. Tip number 9, learn the meta. Decks are meta for a reason, because they work. This will help you stay current and competitive. Know how to play and defend against more common decks seen. Tip number 10, learn the deck archetypes. The archetypes are Spellbait, Control, Beatdown, Siege, and Cycle. Learning them will be an advantage because once you see 1 to 3 cards, you'll likely know what you are facing and therefore can plan your strategy on how to win. Example, if you see a Night Witch, you're likely facing a Golem deck. Tip number 11, areas that are out of your control. Facing over-level players, paid to win versus free to play. Matchups against hard counters happen. There's no conspiracy theories. But even though these areas are out of your control, learning these fundamentals can help you compete against them at a high level and even win. I have beaten many over-level players and you can too. Tip number 12, tile placements matter. Seconds in this game mean so much. Giving yourself extra time to build elixir can be the difference between winning and losing a battle. An example would be placing a cannon 1 tile off to pull, say, a giant. Gives you less time to build elixir and or defend. Learn proper placements. Tip number 13, don't play decks that won't help you get better. Ebarb's Rage at the bridge as an example. You might win one or a few, but this is not a consistent way to win and certainly doesn't help you get better at the game. Tip number 14 is going to be rewatch your wins and losses to improve. There are no perfect battles. You can learn so much by watching replays, mistakes, great moves, timing, overcommitting, over-defending, and the list goes on. Definitely watch and study your battles. Tip number 15 is consider one-tricking a deck. One-tricking a deck is mastering a particular deck like 2.6 as an example. Find your favorite deck archetype and deck and master it. Consistency is key. Tip number 16 is going to be around tilting. You will play worse. It is so easy to fall into the trap when tilting. Don't do it. What I typically do is once I lose a max of 2 battles, I take a break. More oftentimes than not, if I continue to play, I play worse. Lose focus with a high potential to tilt. Take a break, chill, and come back refreshed. Tip number 17, advanced techniques, study and practice. Card counting. When card A is dropped, it takes 4 more drops for card A to be back in rotation, unless you're using a champion, which makes it a 3-card cycle. This is very important when trying to outcycle your opponent and or know when to push. Learn all of the interactions inside of the arena. Example, the Electro Giant has one of, if not the longest pulls in the game. A building placement is crucial in helping defend against the big fella. Improper placements, interaction judgments can cost you battles. And finally, tip number 18, understand ladder and where you are. This is important because in most cases, you'll know what type of players you'll be facing. Low ladder versus mid ladder versus top ladder have different player pools. Lower ladder, they're still learning, leveling up cards, etc. Competition should be fairly easy to beat. Mid ladder, in my opinion, is the worst. Players are still learning, but have leveled up their cards, etc. They play with little strategy and instead they hope things work, like Ebarb's Rage at the bridge, which is why you'll see some of the craziest decks that make little to no sense. Top ladder, the real competition begins. Why? Though meta decks are more widely used, they play with strategy and skill, not hope. You don't have to worry about players spamming uncontrollably. The battles are way more chess-like. And my closing remarks are this. We are all competitive, and that is one of the main reasons we get frustrated when we lose. It's easy to blame the game and or decks, but that is not the right approach. Focus on getting better and you'll find yourself able to win with just about any deck. The top 5 areas to master, in my opinion: elixir management, counter pushing, not overcommitting, not over-defending, and playing patiently. And finally, something to think about. When you watch pros play, do they hope things work? Do they drop Ebarb's Rage at the bridge? Do they get better by crossing their fingers? Do they get better by not practicing? Do they blame decks when losing? The answer to all of these questions is no. Compare these questions to how you play. That should ultimately tell you what type of player you are currently and where you need to improve. And there you have it. That's going to go ahead and wrap up this video. Hopefully you made it to the end and found this video helpful. Let me know in the comments section down below if I missed any tips. Thank you guys again for all of the continued support. Till the next video, good luck inside the arena. Take care and peace out.